Executive Director of the Manitowoc County Historical Society, and welcome to our journey at Pinecrest Historical Village. Pinecrest Historical Village this year marks 50 years of exploring local history with our community, and we're so proud to be able to share it not only with you, but our volunteers and our members as we step into our local history together. Our Pinecrest Historical Village is a recreated community set in the year 1900. We have 35 structures that bring to life exactly what people would have experienced 150 years ago. And everything out here is just like stepping into a story of the past.
Good morning. My name is Phil and I'm the station agent here at Collins Depot in Pinecrest Village. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a little tour of the building and show you what we have. Specifically looking at stuff that we had in the 1880s. All right. The first thing we're going to look at, being a nice cold day, is the stove. Now this was in place of a furnace that you know of nowadays. The stove kept not only this room warm, but the next room warm as well. In the stove we have wood, and the wood starts with a fire. That door is for taking out the ashes when it gets full. And this heats and the smoke goes out of the chimney. All right, the little area underneath or behind the stove, both above and below, is for air to circulate so that the heat can go from one place to another. Okay, then we also have benches which are used for people to sit in. This is the waiting room. This is where people would wait. And what they would do to keep themselves busy is they would play games, they would talk to people, and they would read books. So that's very important. Okay, now we're in the station agent's office, and you can see there are many things in here that we have. You'll notice that we also have another lantern so that we can see in this part of the building at night. And we have this area here, which was put in, they would put in waybills, which were where the cars would go and what they had in them. And they would hand these out to the conductor and the engineer so they knew which cars to pick up. Okay. Also over here is the cubby where we kept all the tickets that we could sell to the people for them to go on a train ride. And that was very important, of course. We have a first aid kit in case anybody got sick or hurt. Over here we have hoops. And these hoops, we have two of them. What we would do is we would take the waybill or a message that we would get, and I'll tell you how we got those messages in just a minute. But we would clip them to the hoops, one for the engineer and one for the conductor. And as the train went through town, if it didn't stop, we would put the hoop out, and then the engineer would put his arm through the hoop and catch it. And then he would go ahead and take the instructions off and then throw the hoop back on the ground. And we would hire young people, maybe somebody your age, to go out and collect those hoops and bring them back to the station. All right, one of the things that we do for communications to get those messages is a thing called Morse Code. Now back then they had phones, but the phone looked like this. Here's where you spoke into. This you would put on your head and by your ear so that you could listen. But the phones were very staticky and scratchy and very hard to hear. So we would do what we called Morse Code. For each letter and number of the alphabet, we had dots and dashes. Now, we have a little ticker which we would use to tap out those dots and dashes. So what I would do is if I started with the P, I'd go 5 dots. The D would be dash, dot, dot, and the S would be 3 dots. And then that would be hooked up to a machine at another station that would click every time I would touch that, it would click here so that the next station would know, hey, I got a message and it's from P, D, S. And that's how they got their messages from station to station so that they could deliver them to the engineer, to the conductor. That's how they communicated. And then we also have a marker light. This would be used on a caboose or even on an engine. And you'll notice that it has red and green. That would be used actually for a switch. And you'd put it on top of a switch, and when you'd throw the switch, green meant that you could go straight, and red, when you flipped the switch, meant that it would go on a curve. So it would be off the main line. This is engine 321, the pride of Pinecrest Village. And we have this engine was actually built back in 1887 in Providence, Rhode Island. Now, how does a steam engine work? Well, they have a huge firebox, which they call a which was furnace-like, and they would put wood or coal in there to get things really hot. They would put water in this upper area known as a boiler, and the boiler would get really hot, the water, and then it would create steam. The steam would go up into the steam dome, which is right up there, and then that would be piped down to the cylinder right here, and there's a piston in there. And the steam would go on one side and push the piston back, and then it would go on the other side, push the piston forward, and that back and forward motion would go through the connecting rods and then go to the wheels and create circular motion. And that's how the steam engine worked. That's how it moved. This is the cab of the steam engine, and up here we had usually 3 to 4 people ride. There would be the engineer who drove the engine. There would be the fireman who took care of building the fire. And then we'd also have maybe a brakeman who would put on the brakes on the cars when they were parked, and a switchman who would help change the cars when they came to a freight yard and would have to call different cars. Behind every steam engine is a tender. Now this tender will hold up to 4,000 gallons of water. That's a lot of water.
Wow.
And this would also haul coal, which would be used to heat the water again and create steam. Some tenders have what they call a stoker. It's an auger that spins around and delivers the coal right to the firebox. This one wasn't so lucky. The fireman had to take a shovel and shovel that coal into the fire every now and again to make sure everything stayed hot. All right, we're inside our Wisconsin Central Caboose at the end of our train. Caboose is always right at the end of the train, and this was like a great big camper on steel wheels. And the the conductor would have his office in here, and sometimes would even sleep in here. So we're going to talk about several different areas in the caboose and show you what they are. So first we have is a sink, and this is just a big piece of wood, a wood pan with aluminum or sheet metal on the top of it, and it has a hole for a drain, and the drain would go right to the ground. There was no sewer system or anything on top of the train, so it would just go directly to the ground. This is our water tank. The water tank is where the water was kept, and you could use this water for cooking or washing your hands and face and drinking also. Next, we're going to go into the cupola area. The cupola is the extension of the caboose roof where the conductor could go up and watch the train all the way to the engine. So we'll take a look at that. You'll also see bunk beds in there, and that's where the people would sleep. Okay, now we're in the conductor's office on the caboose, and we have a desk where he would do his work at, and here are the little cubby holes that he would put the bills of lading, what the cars carried, how much they weighed, and where they were going. We also have a stove, and this stove was used for heating the caboose, and also you could make coffee and cook your meals here. Now, where would they put the food? Well, we have a big ice box right here, and this is where they would put the food. On one side, the back side, they would put a big block of ice, much bigger than an ice cube. It would be about like this. And then on this side, they would put the food they want to keep cold. And that would keep everything nice and fresh for them when they wanted to cook dinner. Next, we have an area for people to sit and visit. Sometimes the brakeman or the switchman would come back here with the conductor and ride in the caboose. One other thing, we have a lantern up here. This was for lighting. It was also used for giving signals because we didn't have radio back then. If the conductor wanted to talk to the engineer, he didn't have a phone. So what he would do is he would use this lantern and do signals like waving back and forth to stop the train or go up and down for the train to go forward, and then make a big circle so that the train would go faster or in reverse. Next, we have some things that everybody calls dynamite, but what it really is these are flares. And flares are like huge sparklers, except that when you light them, they shoot red sparks. And we use these when the train is in danger or when it's broke down, and we would put them behind the track and light them so that other trains coming along would see that red light, and then they would know to stop and not run into the back of the train. And this is the caboose.
Hi, welcome to the Blacksmith Shop, one of the buildings that we have out here at Pinecrest Historical Village. This building really shows how we recreate our local history. Our Blacksmith Shop comes to life on many opportunities during the year, and you can actually come out and take a family class where you can make an S-hook, a bottle opener, or even a dinner triangle to let everyone know it's time to eat. Another one of the structures that we have that make up our Pinecrest Village is our Land and Law Office. In here, we actually talk about the founding of Manitowoc County and also Benjamin Jones, who is considered the father of Manitowoc County. At the Newton State Bank, this is one of the most favorite places for kids to come, and we actually have a program where you can earn money from our Pinecrest Bank by doing chores out here. And did you know that the bank was robbed only once in its history, and that's because the teller left the window open? But the mystery is still unsolved. So you can actually come out here and help us solve the mystery of who robbed the Newton State Bank. Our Shadyside School is a favorite of our thousands of school children that come out each year to experience our local history. Can you imagine in this classroom, one teacher with about 70 students in grades 1st all the way through 8th grade in one classroom? Hi, we are standing on the porch of the Mimi House, a stagecoach inn built about 1855, and this is one of the newest structures that we have to be a part of our Pinecrest Village. Paired with the Pole House, that was a voting place for the town of Mimi from the year 1900 to 1983, and this building also comes with its original livery stable, which is where the horse would stay for the stagecoach inn. All three of these buildings were moved out here, and they made the 15-mile journey to now be part of our Pinecrest Historical Village. And there it's at. Another one of the newest structures that we have at Pinecrest Village is a Krieger Sawmill. The main piece of the sawmill is believed to be once part of the English Lake Sawmill before that building burned down, and then it became a sawmill for the town of Newton. And today it's actually a moving piece that we use for living history demonstrations out at our village.